Right, what have we got today? Boosh, it is another 18650, and when I say 18650 I'm talking about the cell size. Another light from Nextorch. I just recently reviewed the L10 Max, which was pretty good. It was a LEP, so it's very specialised. So a throw, brilliant, at other things, not so specialised. So they sent me a couple of lights. They sent me that one. Nextorch sent me this one. They said, have a look at this, do an honest review. We won't tell you what to say. We don't care what you say. We won't edit this. We won't say anything until it's released. So I said, no problem. So just bear in mind, they sent me this, and I've done a proper honest review. Okay, so Nextorch, it's the E51C. So nice to see, 1600 max lumens. That's on its maximum output there. And we'll have a quick look at the box. I won't belabor the point. If you're wondering what this is, I didn't get hungry and start eating the box. This was where there was a cell. So bear in mind that if you are going to order this, you can get one with the cell, which this one was. The cell was in here, the 18650, and you can get one without, which is slightly cheaper. So if you've already got an 18650, you know, you can bear that in mind. So I got the one with the cell. It's one of their wraps on it, and I'll show you. And it's a 2600 it comes with, 2600 milliamp hours, Type C, pocket size design. Yeah, it is pocketable. I've carried this for more than 2 weeks now, and it's Type C. Thank you very much, Nextorch. Type C. No more of this micro USB malarkey. And it's powered by one 18650. Yes, that's true. It's a tail collector. There's some little stats. I'm not going to belabor the point. Like I say, nice to see though. Look, fills me with a lot of confidence. 5-year warranty. I like to see that. I like to see lengthy warranties. It you know, instills me with a bit of confidence. And there's some of the bump on the back. Yeah, you can charge it. Blah 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 blah. I'm going to go through all that, and there's some of that stuff. Doing this in 4K, so if you want to pause that and have a look, you can. So I put this back in the box. This is how it arrived, but obviously I've ripped that off to take the cell out. And it's using Osram P9, that's the emitter. So a little bit of extra throw on that, so nothing in there. Bush, get rid of that. There's the light itself, so let's see what you get. A couple of silica gels, fine, that just keeps it in good nick. You get your little accessories here, and I'll show you what they are. So you get the usual, if I can show you there, the usual O-rings. They just go along, you know, next to the machined and threaded sections. They ensure waterproofing. So this is an IPX8. So according to them, you can put this, you can submerge this fully under 2 meters of water, and you won't get ingress of water, which is excellent. Now sometimes what happens is you can thread these and shred these, which is fine, and they seem decent enough. They've got a little bit of give to them. They don't seem like those really naff cheap ones you get. So you get a couple of those, which is consummate with a lot of the other manufacturers. You also get their little cable. I have used this, but predominantly I've used Type C to Type C, which does work, and I'll show you that. So they include a Type A to Type C. Very short, this cable, I'll show you. It's not one of the longest. Look at that. So I don't know if they've run out of copper, but dear me, that's very short, so just bear that in mind. You can't use it whilst charging, so maybe that's why they've used a short one. So the ability to plug that in and use it whilst you're hiking and give you a super extended long run times, or use it while you're camping and charging, you can't do that, but I will cover that in the charging section. So I have tested this. That cable did work. And here you have your lanyard here, so you'd put that round here, and again, it's okay, it's premium, it feels really nice, and it's branded there. Excellent. And this is braided, very strong. That's very strong. I'll pull that full force. Look, you can see I'm hurting my finger there. Ow, 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 ow. Look, indent is there. Excellent quality. However, look at this cinch. That cinch is next to useless. Look, the whole point of a cinch is you cinch it down like that, and it should stay there, but look, I mean, that's not. I would like to see that replaced with a spring-loaded one. That's just my personal opinion. Especially at this price point, you're looking at nearly 80 bucks. So I would have liked to have seen a spring-mounted one there, because the whole point of a lanyard is, I mean, you know, some people say it prevents people stealing a torch off you in a fight. Well, I think probably, you know, yes, it probably would. However, when you're working at height, especially on certain sites I've been on, there's certain laws if you're working at height, so you would use lanyards for tools and things like this, and so I think it's a safety feature, so it's not going to drop off a ladder and go through someone's head. So you get that if you want it, but I'm not going to make use of that. You get your manual, which I can't be bothered to read, so Bush, get rid of that. So here's the light itself. Right, let's have a good look at it. First off, I will say, I love the balance of this thing. Look, it's so nicely centrally balanced. I mean, I haven't been sitting practicing this, but it reminds me of like a high quality knife, in that it's just nicely balanced. You might be thinking, well, who cares? It's a flashlight. it does actually make a difference in the way you handle it and feel it. It's got a nice feel to it. Even the anodization's got a nice feel to it. Although that looks like a standard anodization, it may be difficult to see, but you can't really see on camera, but there's a ever so slight texture to it. Listen, you might not even pick this up. Listen, can you hear that? It's not actually perfectly smooth. This section is a little bit more smooth, but especially the head, it has a lovely, it's hard to explain, it's almost like a light eggshell effect, and I really like that. It gives you just enough grip without having to use aggressive knurling, which, you know, gives you calluses. I really like that. Clip wise, I would have preferred to have seen a deep carry. So here's your clip. I would have preferred to have seen the loop go all the way up. So when you've got that in a pocket, so if you imagine this is the top of the pocket and the pocket's here, you're always going to have that protrusion there. That's fine in some respects because I use the 2-finger method. So if I need a light, I just 2-finger and pull. But I kind of like, especially in the knife world, I prefer what's called a deep carry, so it would go all the way. They could probably offer that as an extra. The clip itself's fine. I've used it in jeans and a couple of other pants pockets, and it worked fine. So I've got no complaints, but I'd just like to have seen a deep carry option, especially at this price point. I wouldn't necessarily want one of these ones that's reversible because you're not going to stick that in a peak of a cap. It's too big and heavy and lengthy. That's not really an option. Interestingly, this clip won't come off. So if we compare that to something like, here's a budget light. Sofern budget light. See this clip? It's removable, right? What can sometimes happens is if you've got this clipped in, and it gets knocked, look, it comes off. I'm not going to take it all the way off because it's, you know, I'm trying to do a review here, but look, that comes off and it can be knocked and pulled. This can't, and the reason being is it goes into here and that can't come out. No matter how you pull that or lever it, what you have to do is you have to release the tail section. Okay, so if you can see that, you see how the tail section there, so see how it's like, it's pushed into there. Now then it's hooked around. So can you see that there? It's hooked around, so you can't take that out unless you take the tail section off. I like that design. It means it's ultra secure. So I think they've done a good thing there. They've also done the same thing with the USB, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And the whole thing itself is IPX8, which is exceptional. It means you're not having to worry. If this gets submerged in water, you don't have to worry. You're covered. It won't be an issue. And if I can get it to focus there, sorry about that. So you don't have to worry about that. I like that. It also has a 2 meter drop rating. A lot of these lights, especially the budget ones, will have like, some of them have 1 meter drop rating, some 1.5. I think this may be 1.5. So if you drop that into concrete from 1.5 meters up there, seeing the light will be absolutely fine. And in this regards, it's higher than that, so 2 meters. But to be fair, at the $80 range, I would expect, you know, to be more premium. I have dropped this a few times, but I'm trying to think, it was in mud and I think onto a wooden table. So, you know, I'm not going to say, here's some fantastic war wounds, look at that gaping gash there. There isn't anything, or not that I can see, but I have genuinely carried this for more than 2 weeks in pockets. I've also had it in with, you know, piles of lights like this, knocking together and hiking, where you would expect the finish to come off and it hasn't. So I will congratulate them on that. Excellent finish, no high spots at all. Whereas if you compare that to something like a Sofern, you know, in a very short period of time, you're going to get the high spots. You see the silvered sections? It doesn't affect the use of the light at all. However, you know, it's all to do with workmanship. You see how the high spots there, the silver look? You're not getting that on here. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so what I'll quickly do is, I'll show you the USB charging. So on a lot of these lights, they will have a flap. So you get this rubber flap, you undo that, and then you plug it into charge. On this one, it's different. Now, although a lot of these might claim this is IPX7, IPX8, is it if this isn't seated properly? And in this manner, where do you charge it? You may be thinking, well, hang on, is it one of these ones where the cell comes out and the cell has a type C? No, it isn't. Watch. So you undo the head section, look, and keep watching. So you undo. So bear in mind, this is threaded and has an O-ring, and it's been lubricated. So proper waterproofing, okay? So off this comes, and there is the type C. I really like that. I like that. And this doesn't come off, so you don't put that off, put it in some leaves at camp, and then you go, my God, where's the head? I can't find it, which, you know, can happen with equipment. The head doesn't come off, but look at that. It's hidden behind there. So what we'll do is I'll use their cable again. So type C goes in, and then I'll just use a power pack here. This will do. quite a rapid charger, this one. You see the red light there? It'll be red when it's charging and blue when it's finished. So what it's doing is, see, it's quite a rapid charger. So you're getting 2 amps at 5 volts. So very rapid. They're claiming if this is super low, it can take up to 3 hours. It shouldn't take quite that long. It's only a 2600 milliamp hour battery. It's dropping slightly there. In fact, here's some little figures that I did. On average, you're getting, it was something like 1.4, 1.5 amps at 5 volts, something like 7 watts or whatever. That's the majority of the time. But in this instance here, it's up to nearly 2 amps. So very rapid charging, nice to see. Okay, so their cable works, and like I say, it goes from red to blue. And then just to see, I shall show you here, let's try type C to C, in other words, power delivery. So have they gone the extra mile and included the ability for negotiation to get power delivery to work? So type C to type C. Let's have a look. There you go, plugged in. Now it's not going very rapid there, right? It's banging back up again. So 1.2, 1.4, 1.5 is what I was getting on most type C's. It depends what cable you're using and what state the battery's at. If it's nearly full, it will slow down a bit. The only problem I have is, watch, see it try to turn on there? It won't work whilst it's plugged in. Watch, this should probably turn back on. There, you see? Now I didn't press anything, so it's on at the moment. Watch, when you try and charge it, it turns off. That's a shame, because I like lights where you can use it whilst charging, so we'll have to mark them down for that. So that's gone back up to about 1.2 there. Okay, so it works, type C works. It doesn't work whilst charging, which is a little bit of a shame. And it's using the Osram P9, like I say, and it is an orange pure reflector. So it's not massively throwy, but it's throwy enough, especially with this emitter. It's decent, put it that way. And this bezel is deep enough where I'm not worried thinking if I drop that, it's going to crack that glass. So let's get this rubbish out the way. Get that out the way. Okay, that gets right out the way. Right. In operation, if you'll notice, this doubles. So that was telling you what's happening when charging, but when you run it, I'll show you. If you look at that pill section there you go. So it is red. So if that is blue momentarily, I mean, it doesn't stay on all the time, but when it's blue, your battery should be between 75% and 100% full. Then if it's blue flashing, it's between 50% and 75%. If it turns red like this, so I'll show you. So you turn it on and then momentarily, so it's red. So we know that at the moment the battery is between 25 and 50% full. And then when it's red flashing, you really need to start charging it, because then it's between 0 and 25%. So it really is time to start charging the battery. So I love that. I love an instant. As soon as you turn that on, you know exactly where you are before you set off. Right, I know what this battery is doing. You don't have to go into the UI to look at voltages and try and work out what the hell's going on. Okay, so let's go over the UI. So the UI is very simple, with it being a tail clicker. And interestingly, unlike some of the other tail clickers, and I shall show you a couple here. So here you have an old S2 Plus. The switch is obviously behind there, and then you have this rubber section. Same on the Woburn and the same on the Olight, although this is one of these mushy ones, these tactical ones where you can do it from funny angles and things like that, but that's not really necessary, is it? On this one, they haven't bothered with that. They just have the switch, which makes it very, very small, so there's not a lot of actuation to use it. So in basic terms, the UI is one click on, one click off, and I'll show you that. So one click on, click, I go on there, and one click off. Okay, so now you can half press as well. So if you half press, you go through the modes. So for example, there you've got high, medium, low, and then it goes back again. So high, medium, low. So let's say you're on low and you thought, I want to keep that. You just continue the click, watch, click, and it stays in that mode. So you can just go through them all, no problem. It also cycles them as you turn it on and off. So I'll show you that. So high, medium, low. You can do it like the traditional way, or if and if you want instant access to turbo, it's strobe. So let's say you were being attacked by ninjas or whatever, or a dinosaur, raptor or something. You just double press, if I can get it right. There you go. Sorry, I should cover that in case people are sensitive to strobe. You can instantly get a strobe. I appreciate that. The ability to instantly get a strobe makes it more useful, because it's no good saying, well, this has strobe in case you get attacked. But what you've got to do is you just got to, muck around for 9 seconds whilst you're being beaten over the head with an iron bar. Useless. This gets straight to it. I appreciate that. So in regards to those modes, you have low, medium, and high, and we'll go over them. So let's turn it on. Right, so there's the lowest. So you can see it there. Not the widest beam, but because of that, it's quite throughy. And the orange peel works well. Look, even at a very close range, there's you know, the difference between the hotspot and the spill is taken away rapidly. I really like the beam on this actually. So low is 28 lumens and you get 43 hours on their cell, which is a 26 milliamp hour. And then if we go through, there's medium. So there's medium there. That's 340 lumens and they're saying 4 hours, 15 minutes. And then we'll go back up, boom, there's the absolute maximum. They are claiming 1600 lumens and they say you'll get 2.5 hours. That's pretty exceptional, you know. It's a decent, efficient LED, which is the Osram P9 that this is using. Very nice. I didn't notice any step down in this, although to be fair, all the testing I've done outside has been, I did some indoors yesterday, I couldn't get it to step down, and I've been out, the problem is I've been out, it's been -5, -6 Celsius. So maybe that's not the best environment, because if you live somewhere hotter, you know, if it's temperature based, it probably will step down, but it's been really, really good. Does it feel like 1600? Okay, it's certainly definitely 1200, 1300, definitely. I don't have the ability to test that yet. I don't have one of these lumen spheres or anything, but it was certainly very bright, and it looks brighter because it is a kind of a cool tint in that regards. In fact, here's some little tests I did. So here's what the little test I did. So I tested for flicker. There isn't any basically, or nothing that I can see. And you can see from the graph, you know, the pulse width modulation's negligible. You're not going to see that. And in regards to CRI, in other words, color rendering index, so how much of the of a color gamut are you getting? You're getting 70%, which is nice, because recently I've looked at some of the emitters and they've been below 70, and I think once you start creeping below 70%, it becomes slightly noticeable, and you get those funny green tinges and things don't look quite right. So no issues with that. It's just over the 70, perfect, no problems. It's not high CRI, but this isn't what this light's going for. In regards to tint, in other words, is it warm, is it neutral, is it white? I would say it's towards the white end. It's 6107. In other words, it's heading towards the cool white, so sort of 6400, 6500. It's the sort of standard thing you get on O-lights and things like that. I don't have a problem with that. I'm sometimes a bit of a tint snob. I prefer a warmer tint, but it certainly wasn't an issue on this. I didn't look at this and go, my God, that's a bit harsh. It's like, you know, a strip light in a hospital or something. It wasn't. It was fine. Okay, so let's take that away there. Okay, that gets rid of that. Okay, so really what we need to do is, I mean, I've been through all the basics here. I mean, in regards to fit and finish, I've been very impressed with this. It feels super solid still after carrying it for a couple of weeks. Very impressed. It's quite expensive compared to a lot of the other lights, but then when you compare it to an O-light, it isn't that expensive. You know, that's what you need to do. You need to compare it with market mainstream lights. There's always the exception where you can get super budget lights, but I think it does a decent job. So I've enjoyed using it. What I'll do is I'll give some pros and cons. I mean, before I do that, look, I'll put this down here. Let's bring up a photograph. Okay, so what I did was I went out and I did some, I think it was a half a second timed exposure, and I held the lights at exactly the same place. I pointed at them exactly the same target in the same place at the same time. I tried to be as fair as possible. There was no other external lights. I didn't have a headlamp on, nothing. It was pitch black. So I tested it against a load of other 18650s just to see what we're getting here. So we'll start with the Brightnight E18. So less lumens in totality, slimmer, smaller, still quite expensive though, I would say. It's using a TIR, total internal refraction, rather than a orange peel reflector. And even though it's a TIR, which you would expect traditionally to get a nice wide spread of light, you don't. You get that push in the middle, and then if you look at the left and right, you're in darkness. You don't know who's lurking there. Is it a Bigfoot or a ninja? Nobody knows. So because of that, it gets a nice bit of push, but peripheral, not so good. So you probably wouldn't use it for hiking. If you go and look at the Convoy S2 Plus, there's newer versions of this now with better, you know, like the SST40 emitters and other sort of emitters. But this is one of the older ones. I think that does an okay job. Yes, you're losing a bit of peripheral on the far left and the far right, but it's also an orange peel, and it's a budget light and a lot less lumens. And then the next one, top right, Nextorch E51C, that's what we're looking at here. So what can we see here? Now we can see a little bit of drop off on the far left and the far right at the bottom, especially compared to the S2. It's not as bad as the Brightnight E18. You've got a nice little bit of brightness in the middle there. You see that push? And it does have a little bit of push. I quite like it on country paths and things like that. I think that's pretty bright. It's certainly blows away the S2, but you know, especially if they claimed 1600 lumens is true, it should. You've got the Sofirn SC31 Pro, different emitter, uses a smooth bowl there, so you're getting that push. Nice bit of peripheral though, quite smooth on the sides. I don't see any drop off there. I think that's the SST40 that's using, which is traditionally quite a good thrower, although the peripheral is pretty good there. In fact, it might actually, yeah, I think that beats the E51 on peripheral. However, on overall brightness, I don't know. I wouldn't say it does. The hotspot certainly looks slightly brighter, but the total, you know, the total sum I think is probably maybe a little bit less. Then you have the ThruNite TC15, more of a thrower. It's slimline, it's not like a huge bowl or anything, and it has a smooth reflector, and it's using the Cree 30 XHP 35, I think, off the top of my head. So very bright in the middle hotspot there, good push. The push in the middle is slightly beating the E51, although you can see, if you look at the right middle there, can you see that corona? It's white, and then you've got like a yellowy bit around it. I think that may just be an artifact of the Cree emitter there, and then drop off is probably a tiny bit worse than the E51. You see the bottom left and bottom right of that. It's certainly not better. So I would say, you know, it depends on whether you want to throw it. You're probably going to get a little more distance from the ThruNite, but you get that sort of strange corona effect there. Next one is the Woburn C3. Bear in mind that was an early version I'm using there where it had that awful square beam profile, which was ludicrous. They did fix that though. And it does have a colour cast as it changes from the central section to the sides. And again, look, even though that's a TIR, poor on the left and right. It almost reminds me of the Brianite. It's not as bad, but you know. And then you've got the Olight M2T Warrior. That's also getting on. It's a bit older now, but it's an Olight, and it uses an orange peel reflector, and it is the Cree 35 off the top of my head. So you'd expect it to be similar to the ThruNite, but it isn't. It's more uniform slightly, especially in the center. Does a decent job, nice and bright, about 1600 lumens or 1400-ish, so decent. And then you've got the Skillen M200. It's shown its age now, nicer tint, but you're not really seeing a lot, are you? Same with the Woburn D1. The Woburn D1 will beat all of these lights for width of beam. It's a TIR, and you have a little punch in the middle, which you can see there at the base of those trees, but its strength lies in its width. Its overall width is massive, so excellent for hiking, but you're not going to be able to compete with the E51 for throw there, so that does win. So okay, we'll get rid of that now. Okay, that's gone. Okay, so let's go over some good points and bad points. So good points. I love the fact that the USB port is behind a threaded and O-ring section. That's a brilliant thing, and it makes me believe that this will be IPX8. Excellent. It is IPX8, which is fantastic. Submerged in water, not an issue. As long as you know you've got the O-rings in, it's properly screwed down. 2 meter drop rating, that fills me with a bit of sort of happiness. And of course on the box, as I say, at least 5 years warranty. Excellent, that fills me with confidence there. Good, in fact, I was going to say good anodization. It's excellent so far, not a single high spot, and I have genuinely carried this and knocked it about on purpose. Nothing. So very impressed with the coating. It reminds me of the jet beams where they were quite thick. Really, really good. So I like that. The clip won't come off. I think that's a pro, unless you want it to. I mean, you can undo the tail section and do that. Really, you know, well done on that. Flat tops work. However, when I say flat tops work, I just want to be completely honest here. They do, but watch. So now bear in mind, you've got a spring at the bottom and a spring at the top, leading you to believe that this shouldn't be an issue, because that is a button top. Okay, that's the cell that they give you. There's the Nextorch, 2600 milliamp hours. Okay, so here's a flat top. This just happens to be a Samsung 30Q, and I'll just prove that there. There you can see Samsung 30Q, 3000 milliamp hours, 20 amp lithium ion. So put that in, but can you see there's quite a bit of drop there? Now watch, it does work, and I'll prove that. So put that on, watch, there, it works. However, watch, do the jiggle test, not an issue. However, if I violently shake this, so hold on to this so it doesn't go flying across the room. See if I can get it to do it. There, do you see that? It momentarily went off and it was flashing. See that? So yes, a flat top will work. However, if you violently shake it, I'm just trying to be as honest as possible. If you violently shake it, it drops in and out, but it doesn't completely turn off. So just bear that in mind. So I'll give that a pass, because how many people are going to violently shake that unless you're taking part in WrestleMania or something like that? Okay. So yes, flat tops work. It's nicely balanced. Like I say, it really is nicely balanced. It reminds me of like a really high-end knife where it just feels good in the hand, and it's maneuverable, and you don't have to, just feels nice, put it that way. And it will tail stand, but you know, it's not one of these irritating ones where you've got to get your thumb in at a funny angle. You can go sideways like that, but it's got enough where you can't tail stand it, so that's not an issue. So cons, okay, you can't use it whilst charging. I'm going to have to mark them down a little bit for that, sorry, but that, you know, that is something that some people rely on. The cell that they give you is only 2600 milliamp hours. I would have liked to have seen at least 3000. Come on, at this price, come on. And although bearing in mind that I did bring this up in my L10 review, where someone complained saying, how dare you mark a light down for only having a 2600 instead of a 3000. Well, if you're paying money, is more not better? Come on, you know. And if you're stuck in the woods and you want to get out and your battery's running out, you're going to rely on that. I think that's quite an important thing. The price, about 80 bucks, quite high, but again, you compare that to Olight, is that high, or Ace Beam? Probably not. And the possible flat top issue, I'm just being honest, it does work, but there's a possible issue there. Okay, so I think, to be fair, so there's a lot I like, there's a hell of a lot that I like about this light. I think they've done a really good job. So really, it's difficult. I was going to give this 7.5, and then I thought, right, okay, let's try and justify that. Is that too low? Bear in mind the cons are, you can't use it whilst charging. How many people care about that? Okay, probably a small amount, so let's say, okay, there's a small amount there. Cells, only 2600, okay, not that many people are going to whinge about that, so there's a little bit more of a small amount of an issue. Price, tiny little bit. Flat top, possible issue, it's only possible, so 7.5, 8. It's on the borderline between 7.5 and an 8. I can't decide what to give it. So bearing in mind those cons there, whether it's a 7.5 or an 8 is up to you. Think of all the pros. USB port is hidden. I absolutely love that. IPX8, 2 meter drop rating, a 5-year warranty. Excellent anodization. The clip won't come off. Flat tops work as long as you're not jiggling around like an idiot. It's very nicely balanced. It tail stands. It's a good emitter. You know, they've done a really good job. The CRI isn't too low. Charging's rapid. There's not a lot I can complain about. 7.5 or 8, I don't know. Okay, let's say 7.75. Let's be awkward. So we'll give it that. I mean, here's the other lights that I tested it against. I'll just show you very rapidly. I know this review isn't about them, but I think it's worth noting. So I tested against the SC31 Pro. Again, cheap anodization. Very throwy though, it's SST40, and you get the Anduril. So if you want a really, you know, complex UI, you have the Anduril. And I just happen to have that on the breathing mode there, which you can change. So pretty decent. A little bit of green there, maybe on the lower modes, but very cheap. Also compare it against the E18. Even though it's TIR, you get that quite restricted beam, which is quite strange. I quite like this hexagonal sort of knurling. It's interesting. Very slim line. It reminds me of like the old Olight batons. I tested it against the Woburn C3 here. This is a great budget light, you know. It's got onboard charging. It's also exactly the same emitter, P9. Nice styling, feels nice, compact, good tail clicker. No issues other than obviously the early ones had that stupid square. I mean, look, it's ludicrous. Look at it. Silly, it's like a kaleidoscope, but that was fixed in later issues. Olights, I mean, Olights are relatively expensive anyway, and this just happens to be one with a tactical switch, which I quite like, using the Cree 35, so totally different emitter, but very similar results and similar output. You've got the old S2s from Convoy. This has been going for years. I've had this a long time, no issues. Again, same setup, orange peel reflector, but as you can see, the anodization's coming off. In fact, that's had a right bash, look at that. Can't remember what that was. Was I trying to open a walnut or something? So very cheap. So you're not going to get the same output as the Nextorch here. This is showing its age, the M200 from Skill Hunt. Sort of similar setup, but it's obviously a smooth reflector, much warmer tint, and you have the magnetic charging in order to keep the waterproofing. But then you need to use a proprietary charger, you see. You can't just grab a USB-C lead. Here's the D1, which I was telling you was super wide, and I'll show you that. If I tighten it up, look at the width on that beam. See that? So if you compare that to this one, see the difference. See the width there. but this is going to throw further because of that. You've got more of the light going here instead of sideways. So if you're hiking, you might be better off with a D1, but in other instances, this is just giving you that nice push. Very nice. I also quickly compared it against the TC15 from ThruNite. More of a traditional thrower, smooth reflector, very throwy, very throwy. But yeah, quite expensive for what you get. But ThruNite have been going, you know, I like the ThruNite stuff. I've got a couple of the ThruNites. One of my first lights I bought was a ThruNite, I think. But it's, look at that. It's, yeah, old micro USB. I wish people would move away from that and just go to only Type C. Okay, so move these out of the way. Right, I've waffled enough. We'll give it 7.75 just to be awkward. If I'm feeling happy on a nice day, I'll give it an 8. Okay, so 8, I think that's relatively good. You've got that massive warranty. I like so much about this. There's just a few things I think they should change, especially the ability to use whilst charging. Come on, add that. But other than that, I can recommend this. I've had no issues. It's been great. I have genuinely enjoyed using this. So enough of me talking. I've showed you what I can here. Let's head outside and I'll show you loads of side-by-side so you can see how this acts in different sort of, and like I say, I was out in -5, -6, snow, wind, rain, the lot. And it's been absolutely brilliant. So thank you to Nextorch. Excellent light. They've done a good job, but I would like a few things changed. So let's get outside and look at all this footage. Right, I'm off. Goodbye. Wee.